I'm Bruce Fumey, and I'm in a pub in Kirkintilloch enjoying a dram of good Scotch whisky. This whisky is from Japan. I quite like that as well, eh? Anyway, how are this town and this bottle connected? And who was the astonishing woman that makes that connection in the first place? If you're interested in the people, places and events in Scottish history, then click the subscribe button at the bottom right of the screen. In the meantime, let me tell you a story. Imagine a time before this place existed. It's 1918. War in Europe has raged for 4 years. Now, fortunately, it's the war to end all wars, so Archduke Ferdinand's sacrifice would be worth it. But he wasn't the only sacrifice. The war took your fiancé to a posting in the Middle East, where he died in Damascus. You're a 23-year-old middle-class Scottish woman, and not in the best of health. The books that they'll write about you will describe you as not strong, not robust, capable of light domestic chores, but little else. You've completed a course in English and French at a local college. You're the eldest of 4. Your youngest brother and sister, they're still at school, and another sister studying medicine at Glasgow University. She's following in your father's footsteps. He was a doctor. In fact, the big posh house that you live in doubled up as his pre-NHS doctor's surgery. But in Midsummer's Day, he died of a heart attack at the age of 48. In some ways, his death is the most significant event in this story. You see, it left your mother with a large house but no doctor's income. Mum looks to put the house up for sale, but in the meantime, she had to make ends meet. Large living space but low income meant that she was ideally placed to take a lodger. And as 1918 came to a close, your younger sister arranged for a lonely guest to visit for Christmas. He was a foreigner, a Japanese chap, but he spoke very good English apparently. She met him at university or something like that, I don't know. Being a foreigner without a family, he was probably at a loose end and lost for company over Christmas and New Year. Masataka was his name. There was nothing inappropriate going, I mean, you're not that kind of family. Anyway, let me show you something. Round this way. If Dad had still been around, Mum probably wouldn't have taken in a lodger, but Masataka must have hit it off with the family. Apparently, he was a fitness type and started teaching jiu-jitsu to Campbell, the younger brother. One way or another, by the 4th of March, he must have been a lodger at the house, because this is the address that he gave when he registered for summer classes at Glasgow University. Since then, it's been council buildings, knocked down and replaced by this white nightclub. And now that's shut too. So let's go to the park. Masataka was in the process of translating a whisky Bible called The Manufacture of Whisky and Plain Spirit into Japanese. Now, he spoke good English, but he was glad of Rita's help for the more complex language. Rita, that's the person I've asked you to imagine yourself as. Now, I'm sure you can also imagine that this attractive, educated, exotic man, just a year older than you, who played a small drum as you played piano and your sister sang, would be quite a catch. Your fiancé having died in the war and all. There must have been reciprocal feelings, because when he came back from a trip to mainland Europe, he returned with a gift of perfume for Rita, and she gave him a book of Robert Burns poems. I mean, in 1919, that's practically foreplay. At their 1919 Christmas party, a year after they first met, he proposed. He suggested that he could stay in Scotland and find work, but she knew that his dream was to go back to Japan and make Scotch whisky. And Rita said that she wanted to help. 2 weeks later, on the 8th of January 1920, Masataka Takatsuri, chemical student, and Jessie R. Cowan were married at Carlton Registry Office by declaration, signed by the Sheriff's Substitute of Lanarkshire. They couldn't be married in church because, well, the witnesses were Rita's 16-year-old sister, the singer in the musical trio, and her friend Jessie Henderson, whose dad was now running the medical practice. There was a celebration meal in the Station Hotel in Glasgow, where the wedding party was joined by Masataka's chemistry professor. It was good that he was supportive, because Rita's mother wasn't. As soon as she heard, she insisted that the marriage should be annulled. But they were both over 21, so officially needing no parental approval, which was a good job, because when the letter breaking the news reached Masataka's parents in Japan, it nearly broke them. They went straight to his sponsoring employer, Kehiabe, who hightailed it to Scotland as fast as he could. But by the time he got here, it was too late. The marriage had been consummated. The couple would be heading for Japan. My trip to Japan is going to be far quicker than theirs was. Of course, I'll still have a bit of a wait for my flight, so why don't I tell you a wee bit about Masataka and his background. Masataka Takatsuru came from a well-to-do family of sake brewers near Hiroshima. His mum was of nobility, you know. Let's not beat about the bush. He was a bit posh. At boarding school, he'd been a conscientious student, head of one of the dormitories, and a friend of a future Japanese Prime Minister. You get the picture. But in his autobiography, Masataka says, arriving in Glasgow in the evening, although it was smoky, I felt like I was at home. And that Glasgow was my town. The Ouija's are like that. They're friendly types. After school, he'd studied chemistry at what's now Osaka University, and then transferred to a new course in brewing. In 1917, he was approached by the owner of a spirit making company, so that instead of graduating, he went off to be a chemist with Shetsu Sushu. I think that's how you pronounce it. Anyway, it was this employer that had funded his trip to Scotland for Masataka to learn how to make whisky. The same employer who jumped on a boat as soon as they'd heard about this harebrained idea of marrying a Westerner for love. It just wasn't the done thing. But he had married a Westerner. He'd also made a more in-depth study of chemistry at what's now Strathclyde University. He travelled to Speyside to spend a week working in a distillery just outside Elgin. He'd set out to translate J.A. Nettleton's book, The Manufacture of Spirit as Conducted in the Distilleries of the United Kingdom. He'd worked for a short time at a distillery in Bo'ness, and once married, he and Rita travelled to Campbelltown in Kintyre so that the Japanese student could continue his apprenticeship and deepen his knowledge of the art of making whisky. For 5 months, Masataka worked at the Hazelburn distillery each day, and each night he wrote up notes of what he'd learned, and Rita looked after the domestic activities. Rita knew that his passion was to make real Scotch whisky in Japan. When Rita arrived in Japan at the end of 1920, it was to a welcome home dinner with 19 excited guests speaking a language she didn't understand. 18 of them were men. This is a culture shock. Now, I'm not suggesting for a minute that women enjoyed high status in Britain in the 1920s, but this was worse. Rita had to deal with learning a new language, lettering system, culture, and reduction in status because of her gender, and suspicion of her origins in a country that had only opened to the West 50 years before. a country that was about to see the abrogation of the Anglo-Japanese alliance and the slide towards the hostilities of the Second World War. As I tell the rest of the story, try to imagine yourself in that position. Rita learned Japanese cooking, evidently becoming very good at it. She spoke Japanese, apparently with an Osaka accent. She overcame cultural challenges to become a model Japanese wife. She got work as a piano teacher and an English tutor. The second role meant that she would later make a huge impact in a place where women weren't supposed to. The establishment of authentic Scotch whisky distilling here in Japan. But not yet. Not long after arriving back in Japan, changing economic conditions meant that the Setsushizu Company, that's the ones who had sent Masataka to Scotland in the first place to learn how to make genuine whisky, decided that they could no longer justify building a whisky production still. Everything was collapsing. As if Rita needed another challenge. A few months later, Shinjiro Tori, who'd launched a drinks company 24 years earlier, asked Masataka to set up Japan's first whisky distillery with him. Where should they locate it? Masataka thought back to the remote northern areas of Scotland with clear, fresh water and suggested the island of Hokkaido, far to the north. Shinjiro Tori looked at the transport costs and set up the distillery in Kyoto. Rita continued with her teaching. She had a failed pregnancy and wasn't able to have children after that. They adopted. Now, a baby Japanese child doesn't question why mummy's white. She's just mummy. But that child would grow. And with the approach of war, so would doubt and discontentment. Lack of their own children wasn't the only disappointment. Masataka was asked to manage a brewery that Shinjiro Tori had bought 100 miles away. Now, there are conflicting opinions about this. Masataka's insistence on following Scottish methodology, the demands of managing two plants 100 miles apart, Shinjiro Tori's own son taking an interest in distilling whisky. Whatever the reasons, discontent followed. But remember I said that Rita's English teaching links would prove useful. At the age of 40, having established the first ever whisky distillery in Japan, Masataka decided to go into competition with his powerful employer. He would build a new distillery where he'd wanted to build the first, in northern climes where fresh water flowed freely, just like he remembered in Scotland. Where would he get the money for this new venture? From three investors, two of whose families had been taught English by a certain Scottish woman in Japan. This is the site office where Rita and Masataka truly set about producing genuine Scotch whisky in Japan, here on site at the Ueshi Distillery of Nikka. Now, I'm not going to bore you with the fermentation, distillation and maturation period, but the first whisky from the distillery was put on the market in 1940. A year later, the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. The war was actually good for the Nikka whisky business. The taste of Japanese officers for whisky and a crash of Western imports meant that business boomed. But life wasn't smooth. This is what they call Rita's house. Rita Takatsuru ni Cowan, to be precise. For a Scottish woman holding a Japanese passport, married to a Japanese man with adopted Japanese children, life certainly wasn't smooth. Don't forget that Japan had been at war with China for some time. It was largely the reason for their involvement in this Second World War. Even basic foodstuffs like rice had been rationed. But with the outbreak of hostilities with the West, Westerners were going home. And Japanese, leaving the house meant being followed by police on suspicion of spying, or being spat on by locals who were now technically her countrymen in the streets around about here in Uishi, as her family in Scotland longed that she might return, and her daughter, who would find it more difficult having a white mother. These must have been difficult years to live in this house for a woman who'd worked so hard to assimilate into Japanese life. Rita suffered increasing ill health. After the war, the business prospered with inevitable ups and downs, but visas to travel outside the country were limited, so calls to visit home went unheeded. They moved to a suburban house outside the distillery with rooms in European as well as Japanese style. They adopted a son to inherit. Grandchildren came, but Rita's health continued to decline in the 10 years after the war. In 1956, Rita spent time in and out of hospital. Tuberculosis and cancer were taking their toll. Early in 1957, she was discharged, but by October, she was in hospital further south in Tokyo again. 1957 was actually a memorable year for Rita. An aunt died and left a legacy to her and her siblings. Her younger sister, Lucy, used her share to come and visit Japan. Rita used hers to set up a nursery school here in Uishi. It was also a special year because it was the first in 4 that Rita spent Christmas at home rather than in hospital. But her time was always spent down in the warmer climes and health services near Tokyo, and she desperately missed the grandchildren. I had intended to pay my respects at a graveside. I hope they and you will forgive me that. On the 17th of January 1961, when Nika Whisky and her husband were at their height, Rita died. She regretted that she'd never been able to return to visit Scotland. Her husband, Masataka, regretted as he felt the shortening of her life because of the stresses that she'd faced following him to Japan. 14 years later, he followed her to that other world. And somewhere on that snowy hillside, in this graveyard, they look out to the Northern Sea. Maybe they look towards Speyside Whisky Distilleries. Maybe Campbelltown, where they prepared for their work here. Maybe to Glasgow, that Masataka said was his town. The funny thing is that Masataka's probably little known in Glasgow, but Rita is well known here, with a TV series about their lives doing great box office. Either way, when I get back, I'll raise a glass of whisky to them both. It'll be Japanese. Or will it? If you'd like to hear more intriguing stories about Scots in Japan, then there's a video coming up on screen now. Support the channel by clicking to become a Patreon member or buy me a coffee in the description below. In the meantime, ha mé an dóchas gún bí lá má life. Chéri an drasta.